Where do we see gold out there in the marketplace? We see it in jewellery, we see it in statuettes, we see, maybe we could actually even look at to getting an Oscar made out of it. Gold is ubiquitous, it tells a story already. We just want to tell a slightly different story, which is much more emotional, which is much more powerful than even the already powerful story of gold.
Okay, so that's on the demand side.
And the issue for me with a business model is how do you get, I don't know how many, there's about what, less than 0.5% of the gold in the region is being mined by, Oro Verde.
Yeah.
So how do we create a business model that's going to attract the rest of the miners
Mm-hmm.
who are either mining illegally or for major corporates?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. And that's for me is the challenge, because I do not see demand, given the amount, you're not going to be mining 300 tons of this a year, are you? Not using the techniques.
No.
So we've got to get the business model right so they can meet the
But
demand.
if we
I
can
think
get
your
a
ideas are
premium, if we get a
great,
premium
but
that's way above the 15%,
Yeah.
we may
then
not
we're
be
in
able to meet
business.
the demand that you create through this.
But if we can get up to 20%, 25%, 30% that people are prepared to pay, because remember, it's the consumer who's paying that premium, then that is a message directly back to the miners to say, actually, consumers are prepared to pay 25, 30% premium for the gold that is mined in this way, rather than the gold that's being illegally mined. It's not that necessarily we want to create a huge demand, we want to create a demand that's prepared to pay an awful lot more for this.
So that's one issue, is premium. And that's not my area of specialism at all. On forest carbon, there's potentially another revenue stream there as well. Now, just on a basic calculation here, it's a big area, first of all, so that's one challenge. I don't know whether Oro Verde or any of its partner organisations have got the capacity to develop a project which brings in other miners as well across the entire area. But again, just back of the envelope calculations, the maximum you might be able to get from something like that would be around $2 million a year for 50 years. If you could get the right project in place. So I think it's worth looking at, but it's going to be heavily dependent on the capacity locally there.
I think there's a landmark case which Forest Trends has just been working on in Brazil, where the Surui Indians have just been legally granted the rights to the forest carbon.
Yeah.
So what might be interesting is to hook up with Forest Trends on that.
Yeah. So what are you doing at the political level? I mean, if they haven't got the rights granted, is there a way of getting the rights granted by the Colombian authorities, the government then?
I guess the argument that you hope to be able to make is that you can have a form of gold mining that creates social benefits, that creates employment, that creates a peace dividend, and you've got the forest carbon and ecosystem services.
But they've got employment already. I think you've got to address the heart of the matter, which is the business model. I mean, it's not even a cottage industry at the minute, is it? It's very, very small. I think we're all pretty much convinced that there's going to be demand for it, but it looks like we can't meet the demand. It's not an attractive, I hesitate to use the word, career for other miners in the area, because they can probably get paid more by either illegally mining or working for somebody else. And how do we address the business model so they can offer the same prospects to other families?
If we can help these mining men and women with equipment, the water pump doubles their productivity. This $3,000 water pump.
Yeah.
And America's got one, a lot of them don't.
Yeah.
And he's staying in business, others aren't. So Ray, this is your area. What is the type of company structure that would help these guys scale up? Because at the moment, it really feels like it's an NGO.
I don't know how company structures work in Colombia, but they need a company that somebody can invest in. And I can imagine, given the scale, we're not asking here for £100 million worth of investment. I mean, it sounds pretty small scale initially, just to prove the business model. And I think, they need the social enterprise model rather than the NGO. You have to become a real business where you generate profits and use those profits for your social mission or the impact that you seek to achieve. It's going to be no different in Colombia, but there's a lot of challenges around it. I mean, what vehicle? I'm sure that there'll be a limited company structure in Colombia, the same as you have here. And it doesn't have to be, the miners on the ground that actually run the company. The company can be run separate for them and they can contract with the company.
Okay, so something like a trading company, which can then have contracts with the miners and forward contracts which can be used as collateral for loans, which they can then use to invest in technology to improve their efficiency.
For me, the one thing I'm concerned about is the competition, and are the competition going to step back and let them expand? You know, are they going to be powerful enough? And I think you mentioned about, you know, partnerships. Is there scope to get a partnership and agreement with some of the other mining companies in the area to free up that space, yeah?
That's very
and
interesting.
perhaps jointly invest, yeah?
Okay. Now, there's some interesting stuff going on with the mining majors around large-scale mining and
Yeah.
artisanal mining partnerships.
One of the things which I know in South America is that, especially what we're talking about in terms of the cash that's going to come from protecting the forests, actually is a big issue. Is there a reputation advantage here?
There must be. You're sitting in the boardroom there and you get an opportunity to support this with like a tiny bit of money actually in the scale of things. And you know, that helps your green credentials.
Yeah.
Okay, it sounds like this is just an initial get together, explore which of the ideas we want to develop. It sounds like we got a lot of leads that address the specific problems they got. What I propose is that we meet up again in a couple of months for another review session where we explore just how far we've got.